Let's move on to another issue now. So the City of Cape Town has decided to forego designated sites for fireworks this year. This means that the discharging of fireworks is not allowed in terms of the Community Fire Safety Bylaw. The City of Cape Town says for a number of years they have made an exception to accommodate this practice for Guy Fawkes, Diwali, as well as New Year's Eve. However, a number of factors led them to now change their mind this year. Telling us more, we're joined in our Sea Point studio in Cape Town by Mayoral Committee Member for Safety and Security, JP Smith. JP, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome.
Good morning.
Talk to us now, just a bit of a clarification. Has the City of Cape Town banned fireworks outright? Because there seems to be a couple of mixed messages with this regard.
I think some of the more enthusiastic media chose that as the headline because presumably the telling people that we no longer have designated sites wasn't an interesting enough one. So that's the line they went with, and I think that's created a lot of confusion. It must be understood that you can still discharge fireworks if you have a formal event, Diwali celebrations, for instance, where those are formally approved. Remember, we also have a national piece of legislation that makes discharging fireworks in public places illegal. It's called the Explosives Act, and it seems like the entire country has forgotten about this piece of legislation, but in fact has very significant implications. It says you can only discharge fireworks if it's part of a formal legal display. And in this regard, the city's bylaw says something similar, says you cannot discharge fireworks in a public place. And of course, we made the concession by every year creating some sites where that could happen. But over the years, these sites have gotten so problematic and the communities around them so impatient and unaccepting of them that this year we finally relented and just didn't designate any sites.
Okay. So the city has said that they, as you say, not providing designated sites to set off these fireworks. Perhaps you can elaborate a little bit on this, and so that you can actually just educate viewers on what they can and can't do.
Okay. So nationally, the Explosives Act says you can't discharge fireworks in a public place. The city's Streets and Public Places bylaw of 2007 says the same thing. That bylaw replaced older bylaws from the older municipalities that preceded the Unicity that had similar provisions. And effectively, that means you can discharge fireworks only from your private property. The reality is, though, that there are other noise and other bylaws that really have implications for that as well. So I was excited when I, for instance, saw that many Hindu leadership across the country supported the idea of green fireworks or fireworks without an explosive or percussive sound as a way to reduce trauma and complaints around these celebrations. I thought that was quite a progressive way to approach the festivals, especially for somebody where fireworks is part of a valid tradition, as opposed to Guy Fawkes, for instance, that actually has little to do with our country. Over the years, the sub-councils in Cape Town who get to make the decision about where these designated sites are, the city is divided into 24 sub-councils, have one by one declined to designate any sites because of the injuries to children, injuries to animals, trauma to animals, fires that result as a result of irregular use. There was a Chinese lantern that we explicitly forbid as part of these sites that was set off last year that drifted into the wetland and caused a fire. So overall, people have just become very impatient with the damage to property, the injuries, and the overall impact of these sites. And so this year we finally just got to a situation where there was almost no designated sites left, and the few where the sub-councils weren't complaining about them almost had no people attending them, so that there was in fact little point in spending the 800,000 Rand or so for keeping them open.
So I just want to, I suppose, look at the big events that are coming up. I mean, we've got Diwali coming up in less than 2 weeks' time, and we know that the Cape Town Hindu community has claimed that the city is being discriminatory and enforcing this law without consulting them. You know, this is part of a religious celebration. What do you say? How do you reply to the community who are saying you are discriminating against them?
We did provide a site for the Diwali celebrations. We did engage with some of the leadership over the last few days, and there is a site that is designated for that. What we had previously indicated is that the Diwali leadership or people organizing Diwali events and the Hindu leadership in the city should make an events application but they indicated that they felt there was too little time for them to meaningfully do so. So understanding that there is comparatively little lead time in this regard, we've gone ahead and kept one of the larger designated sites that was approved by a sub-council for discharge of fireworks on the days in question. And we're very happy to do that. We celebrate the Diwali celebrations here. They're small, but an important community to us. So there's certainly no desire to curtail that in any event. For Guy Fawkes and New Year's Eve, no such arrangements are being put in place. Again, it's in part a decision I have to defend, but it's a decision really made by the individual sub-councils in the city. We take decentralized decision-making seriously, and we believe that communities have the right to make these decisions for themselves. And in this regard, very few sub-councils were willing to consider any designated sites.
So if you do break the law and you let off fireworks, what will the punishment be?
So keep in mind that only the sale and distribution of fireworks is not something the city can regulate. That can only be regulated by national legislation. And there is currently a private member's bill before Parliament to talk about doing that, to tighten the regulations and sale and distribution of fireworks. And nationally, the Hindu leadership have supported that. I've seen newspaper articles in which they supported the legislation. However, locally, if you discharge fireworks in a public place, on a street or in a park, you are causing a major fire risk. And the city's law enforcement or Metro Police, if they observe that, or if we receive a complaint, may issue you a fine. It's notable perhaps that bylaws and other municipalities have a similar prohibitions in them, but I suspect that the enforcement thereof is very intermittent. So if we do get complaints, we'll respond to that. And of course, the selling of fireworks on the street loose is also an offence in terms of the Explosives Act. You're not allowed to unbundle the fireworks from the containers it's in, because then, quite frankly, what you're selling to people, you cannot guarantee the security and safety of, because it has now been exposed to elements and otherwise, and really to allow, for instance, a child to use that fireworks, especially unsupervised, is potentially dangerous. And every year we see these completely unnecessary injuries with kids losing eyes or hands or otherwise because of fireworks.
All right, we're going to unfortunately have to leave it there, but thanks very much for the clarity from that. JP Smith, City of Cape Town Mayoral Committee Member for Safety and Security, just giving us a little bit of clarity on this, the issue around fireworks in Cape Town.